Dozens of states have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over frozen education funding, and the Pentagon is awarding multi-million-dollar contracts to leading artificial intelligence firms. Good morning, I'm Kristen Wright with NPR News, and here are today's top stories. Russia says the White House plan for European NATO allies to purchase U.S. arms to send to Ukraine is likely to prolong the war. President Trump announced the weapons plan yesterday at the White House, along with threats to impose new sanctions if Russia doesn't sign on to a peace deal soon. NPR's Charles Maynes reports.
Trump approved the sale of U.S.-made missile defense systems in particular, amid growing frustration over repeat Russian drone and missile strikes on Ukrainian cities. Yet Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Ukraine would see the new arms deliveries, quote, not as a sign of peace, but a signal to continue the war. Peskov said Moscow remains committed to U.S.-brokered peace talks with Kyiv that have yielded humanitarian exchanges but made no progress towards a ceasefire. Peskov also noted Trump's threats to impose secondary sanctions and tariffs on Moscow in 50 days' time should Moscow fail to agree to a peace deal were directed at Russian President Vladimir Putin, adding it was up to Putin when and whether to respond. Charles Maynes, NPR News, Moscow.
President Trump says Education Secretary Linda McMahon will now begin dismantling the agency. The Supreme Court cleared the way yesterday for the administration to move forward with mass layoffs of nearly 1,400 people for now. The court's majority didn't explain its reasoning for the stay of a lower court ruling. The case is still moving through the courts. 24 states and the District of Columbia have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. NPR's Sequoia Carrillo reports they're calling on the White House to release billions in frozen education funding.
California, Colorado, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island lead a coalition of states from across the country in a lawsuit asking for the release of more than $6 billion in federal education grants. In the rapid lead up to the school year, many school districts are in limbo without the previously approved funds to round out budgets. The 6 grant programs under review help fund English language programs, provide resources for migrant students, and support after-school programs. The largest pot of money affected is for teacher professional development. The Education Department did not respond to a request for comment and gave no timeline on their review of the programs. Sequoia Carrillo, NPR News.
Controversy continues around the Epstein files. The Justice Department and the FBI have walked back earlier statements by President Trump on the campaign trail that there's an Epstein client list. The financier died behind bars, accused of sex trafficking minors. NPR's Stephen Fowler reports there are conspiracy theories around Epstein, that he blackmailed powerful people, that he was murdered, and that there was a cover-up.
Yesterday, there was a new consensus forming online from people who either said they were moving on and trusting the White House or hinting that there were going to be more shoes to drop sometime in the future. We don't really know if this does anything to hurt Trump's favorability, but it does reiterate the stranglehold Trump has on the shape and direction of the GOP and how hard that'll be to replicate in the future.
Officials said Epstein died by suicide. The Pentagon is awarding multi-million-dollar contracts to leading AI firms, including ChatGPT's parent company, OpenAI. NPR's Sean Ruich reports the Defense Department wants to accelerate the use of AI to help address critical national security challenges.
The Pentagon's Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office says contracts have been awarded to Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, and Elon Musk's xAI. Each has a ceiling of $200 million. It did not give details of the contracts, but it says the partnerships will help broaden DoD's use of frontier AI capabilities in warfighting and in other areas, and they'll help the companies understand and address critical national security needs. It's part of what the DoD calls a commercial-first approach to accelerating the adoption of AI in the Pentagon, and it represents a step up in the DoD's engagement with the country's leading AI firms. John Ruich, NPR News.
President Trump's tariffs are finally starting to have an impact on inflation, as economists had cautioned. New inflation numbers are out from the Labor Department. Consumer prices rose 2.7% in June from a year ago. That's a bigger annual increase than the 2.4% seen in May. The U.S. is imposing a 17% duty on most fresh tomatoes from Mexico, effective immediately. The Florida Tomato Exchange Trade Group says it's a victory for American tomato farmers. Critics, though, say the import tax will make tomatoes cost more. Drier weather is expected in New York City and surrounding areas today after torrential rain. Bruce Conviser reports from New Jersey floodwaters inundated roadways and subway stations.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy declared a state of emergency Monday evening as powerful thunderstorms pounded the region. Flash floods were the governor's primary concern, and he urged people to stay off the roadways unless it was an emergency. More than 9,000 customers lost power across New Jersey and parts of New York State. The storms also slammed into New York City, forcing roadway closures and flooding subway stations. People in basement apartments were told to be prepared to evacuate. The region is expected to dry out today. For NPR News, I'm Bruce Conviser in Greenbrook, New Jersey.
AMC Theaters is expanding its discount movie days to 2 days a week. Adult tickets are now half off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The deal is just for AMC Stubs members. The company is tackling the downward trend in movie theater attendance as many opt to stream movies at home. A new study finds the number of young children in the U.S. accidentally swallowing nicotine products has soared in recent years. NPR's Maria Godoy reports.
The study found that between 2010 and 2023, U.S. poison centers received about 135,000 reports of young children accidentally ingesting nicotine products. Most cases occurred at home in children under the age of 2. While most children experienced no side effects or only minor ones, serious effects occurred in 39 children, and 2 children died. The researchers say most cases of ingestion involved liquid nicotine, the kind used in vapes. However, since 2020, reports of children swallowing nicotine pouches have skyrocketed by more than 760%. That corresponds with a surge in sales of these products. The findings appear in the journal Pediatrics. Maria Godoy, NPR News.
The World Health Organization is giving its green light for a new drug to prevent AIDS. But NPR's Jonathan Lambert reports that U.S. foreign aid cuts could reduce supply.
Right now, HIV prevention drugs come mostly in the form of daily pills. While those are highly effective, sticking to a daily schedule can be a challenge for a lot of people. The new twice-a-year injection is called lenacapavir, and it could be much easier to take. The WHO says it represents the next best thing to an HIV vaccine. WHO's official recommendation should prompt countries around the world to approve the drug, as the US FDA did last month. But US funding makes up a sizable chunk of global HIV prevention spending, and public health experts worry that steep cuts by the Trump administration could limit lenacapavir's reach. Jonathan Lambert, NPR News.
I'm Kristen Wright, and this is NPR News in Washington.